This is the story of a wealthy, influential family with ties to the Kennedy dynasty, a brutal murder, and a decades-long quest for justice. We're talking about the Skakel family and the murder of Martha Moxley. Let's dive into the details of this chilling case. The Skakels lived in the affluent neighborhood of Belle Haven in Greenwich, Connecticut. The family was rich, their wealth stemming from the Great Lakes Carbon Corporation, owned by the Skakel patriarch, Rushton Skakel. Rushton's wife had passed away, leaving him to raise their 7 children in a sprawling mansion. The Skakels were also related to the Kennedys through Ethel Skakel Kennedy, who was Rushton's sister and the widow of Senator Robert F. Kennedy. This connection added to their aura of untouchability and made them a prominent and somewhat enigmatic presence in the community. On the night of October 30th, 1975, known locally as Mischief Night, the Skakel household was bustling with activity. Mischief Night was a time when teenagers would engage in harmless pranks like toilet papering trees and egging houses. Among those present were Michael Skakel, who was 15 at the time, his 17-year-old brother Thomas, Tommy, and a few friends. Martha Moxley, a 15-year-old neighbor, was also there, hanging out and enjoying the evening with the Skakel boys. The night was filled with typical teenage antics. Martha and the Skakel brothers were seen flirting and fooling around, and there was a general sense of playful energy in the air. As the evening progressed, the group moved between different houses, including the Skakel residence. By 9:30 p.m., the activities began to wind down, and people started to head home. Martha was last seen leaving the Skakel house, intending to make the short walk back to her own home. The following morning, on Halloween, Martha's body was discovered under a tree in her family's backyard. She had been brutally beaten with a golf club, which was traced back to the Skakel household. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. How could something so horrific happen in such a seemingly safe and privileged neighborhood? The police quickly focused their attention on the Skakels. Tommy Skakel, being the last person known to have seen Martha alive, became the prime suspect. However, despite extensive questioning and investigation, no charges were brought against him. The Skakel family's wealth and connections seemed to place them beyond the reach of justice. The case went cold, but the Moxley family and the community never forgot the tragedy. As the years passed, the case remained unsolved, but it continued to loom over the community. Fast forward to the 1990s, when renewed media interest and a book by Mark Fuhrman, a former LAPD detective involved in the O.J. Simpson case, brought fresh attention to the murder. Fuhrman's book, Murder in Greenwich, pointed the finger squarely at Michael Skakel, suggesting he had a history of violent behavior and was likely the killer. Michael had always maintained that on the night of the murder, he was at his cousin's house, miles away from the crime scene. However, as the investigation was revived, his alibi started to crumble. Several people came forward, saying Michael had confessed to them about the murder, describing in chilling detail how he killed Martha in a jealous rage. One of the most damning pieces of evidence came from Michael's own mouth. In a taped conversation with a novelist who was working on a book about the case, Michael admitted to being outside Martha's house on the night of the murder, climbing a tree and masturbating while watching her. This bizarre and incriminating statement cast serious doubt on his previous alibi and suggested he had been much closer to the scene of the crime than he had originally claimed. In 2000, Michael Skakel was finally arrested and charged with Martha Moxley's murder. The trial was a media circus, given the high-profile nature of the case and the Skakel family's Kennedy connections. Prosecutors presented a compelling case, arguing that Michael, enraged by jealousy, followed Martha after she left the Skakel house, attacked her with a golf club, and left her to die. During the trial, the prosecution highlighted several key points. First, the golf club used to kill Martha was a 6-iron from a set owned by the Skakel family. Second, Michael's behavior in the years following the murder was erratic and troubling, including substance abuse and violent outbursts. Third, multiple witnesses testified that Michael had confessed to the murder, either directly or indirectly, over the years. One of the most compelling testimonies came from a former classmate at Elon's school, a reform school Michael attended in the late 1970s. The classmate testified that Michael had confessed to the murder during a group therapy session, saying, "I'm going to get away with murder. I'm a Kennedy." This statement, if true, suggested not only guilt, but also a belief that his family's connections could protect him from the consequences of his actions. The defense, on the other hand, argued that the case against Michael was based on unreliable witness testimonies and circumstantial evidence. They pointed out inconsistencies in the statements of key witnesses and suggested that the passage of time had distorted memories. They also argued that the prosecution's case was driven by media sensationalism and a desire for closure rather than solid evidence. In 2002, Michael Skakel was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. The verdict was seen as a long overdue justice for Martha Moxley and her family. However, the Skakel family continued to maintain Michael's innocence, claiming he was wrongfully convicted and that the trial had been unfair. Michael Skakel's legal team didn't give up. They filed numerous appeals, arguing that he didn't receive a fair trial and that his original defense was inadequate. In 2013, a judge agreed with these arguments and granted Michael a new trial. Michael was released on bail, sparking outrage from those who believed he was guilty. In 2018, the Connecticut Supreme Court reinstated Michael's conviction, only to have it overturned again in 2020. As of now, Michael Skakel remains a free man, his guilt still a subject of fierce debate. The Moxley family, meanwhile, continues to seek closure and justice for Martha, enduring the ongoing legal battles and public scrutiny.